Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on July 18th, 2023 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones that I personally live my life by. Now, before I get into anything, we'll start off with football cat in the house with the gold. Eternity Eternal has arrived with the silver, and we have Steve Knox in with the bronze. Followed right hot behind him is Emmy Tonga with the honorable mention. Now, this is Tuesday, so I hope it's Tuesday. Either that or I'm completely screwed up, which, by the way, would not be an entire shock. Yep, today is Tuesday. So we are looking at aliens and various other things. But this said, okay, if you've got a question, even if it's not on topic, absolutely be certain to put the questions in the chat room in all caps. This is not yelling. This is called getting my attention. Because frankly, unlike Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio, I myself do not track the changes that fast. But remember, one very important factor here, and I only started doing this because I ran into a problem and I realized it's going to be a problem somewhere along the way. But the only people that can put links in the chat room, even if you try that neat little idea of working it into your conversation, are the people marked as moderators. Thankfully, the ones that are marked as moderators do have a tendency of checking in and making certain it's okay. Which I cannot complain too much about. Well, I guess I could, but why bother? Now, with that in mind, we're going to start now. These guys, many of you call them vampires. I used to refer to them as shadow walkers. But, quite frankly, their actual name, according to them, is Sanguinan. And I did not print that off very well, but that's okay. That's actually the picture that is going to be that is in the second printing. Okay, the second printing of Races of the Worlds. And what do we got here? Sam Cooker, how are we doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has been going well. Now, I'm looking at this world, and, the reality is, contrary to popular belief, we are not alone. I shouldn't say popular belief because, as it turns out, I was looking on the net the other day, and apparently, at least if we look in the States, apparently approximately 62% of people accept the fact that aliens are actually there. Okay, now there will always be people that say, no, they don't exist. That's just the reality behind it. And I just want to take a look at something here. Okay. Now, the reality of it is, Sanguinan are not actually an off-worlder. They are from here. They did evolve from here. Okay, and as near as I've been able to piece together, they evolved from here out of necessity. It started off as a small group. Okay, but when food started to get a little scarce, they became hunters. The difference between the Sanguinan and humans is the Sanguinan turned around and started hunting humans. Okay, they did become very nocturnal. Now, there are a number of things that people have been, shall we say, guided down an interesting path. A lot of it happens to come from Hollywood, from what I've gathered. Okay, the reality of it is, we can take a look and, people say, well, if you're going to kill a Sanguinan, you got to stab it through the heart with a stake. Think about that for half a moment. Yes, it'll kill a Sanguinan. However, you stick a heart through anybody's heart, a stake through anybody's heart, odds are they're going to up and die on you. Okay, in case you hadn't noticed, that's a really rough one to actually heal from. Just looking to see if I left something open. Apparently not. Anyway, what we are looking at here is they are a hunter race. Okay, they are, humans became hunter-gatherers, meaning humans evolved to really start looking at the farming side. The Sanguinan didn't. Okay, they didn't bother with the farming side. Do they eat vegetable from time to time? Certainly. Okay, but every carnivore does. The thing is, the way that they evolved, they developed a very specific digestive tract. And yes, they do primarily go after blood. They can go after other forms that aren't human. Eye voices. Some of them are. Now, there is one little glitch to that. Metabolically speaking, or physiologically speaking, is it doable? The answer is yes. Problem is that when things get carried away, they have a very high degree of passion. More often than not, that results in their chosen mate not surviving the experience. I mean, it's one thing giving somebody a hickey while you're playing around. These guys don't stop at just the surface. Now, football. I am not entirely certain what Beck is. So I'm going to have a problem on that one. Okay, there are a number of different races that do have black eyes, but how you doing, Nathan? Glad you could join us. Presumably you're working, which would be the normal route. Now, that said, let us go down here, and I will come back to that there, football. First and foremost, this is the link to Spaced Out Radio. Okay, perfect. That answered that question in a hurry. Thank you so much for that, football. Don't mind me, and acronyms quite often run into a little bit of a problem for me. Now, that is Spaced Out Radio, and Nathan is here, making this the link to Nathan's show. And we put a paste there. And again, guys, with these links, absolutely drop by, give them a listen. If you like what they have to say, give them a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. And then please do us all a favor and just share the daylights out of it. Now, let's go back up. What do we got here? Oh, I think I've actually got them in book too, but I'm going to make a, yeah. Well, I would make a note of it, but of course I had to leave my pen behind. And go over here and grab a pen so I got something to make notes with. That's why I've got that pad of paper beside me here. Okay, now, where are we here? Okay, now, I will tell you there are a couple. Now, one of the most obvious from my standpoint is, like, obviously football. The black-eyed kids have the black eyes, obviously, but Shadow, how are we doing? Glad you're here. Whoa. Okay, Shadow, where are we? I should really get organized on this. What do you think? Uh-oh. Let me see what's going on here. Well, that's an interesting setup. Where am I here? I just spotted something. Shadow, when you said you were muted, who are you referring to? Are you referring to me? Oh, okay. The reason I'm asking is I'm listening here and it's showing up. I'm hearing me, but where are we here? I'm going to shut that down so I can't hear it. I do hope you guys can hear. So I'm going to do this the easy way. I hear it quite nicely. But let me ask you this. Okay. Can you guys hear me out there? Just because I'm here when I double check it, when I double check it on my stream, I'm hearing it fine. But I figured I better double check because it shows from my end it is. What do we got here? Oh, thank you so much, there, football. And Steve, thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm not quite certain who's muted. But okay. Perfect. We'll carry on with that now that I've confused the heck out of myself. Lazarus, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Let's just see where I got lost here and see what I've got coming up. Well, now. Now. I'm not sure who you're asking. I'm just going right back up to the top here. Okay, just to make sure. Okay, first and foremost, let's get that back. Jeez, things are not going as well as I would like. So, go all the way up to the top here and we'll catch up on it. Okay. Now, I answered that one. I know that. We scroll down a little. Oh, that was listed twice. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. Football, going back to way back up top here. Football, you asked, what creatures have black eyes like the black-eyed kids? Obviously, the black-eyed kids do. However, the vegans do as well. And rest assured, there is a great deal of difference between a vegan and a vegan. Okay, vegans, for instance, have absolutely no pain center. Okay, which means they don't register it at all that way. Now, that said, they're the obvious ones. The Talon also, their eyes do appear black. And as a matter of fact, many of the races that have multifaceted eyes, as well as the Greys, have black eyes. So, when you think about it, a lot of these races have what appear to be black eyes of varying different shades, varying different sizes. Okay, now, in answer to, football's asked question, are going to see the Barbie movie. Myself, I've got no interest in it. Of course, to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of interest in the, digital movies anyway. The ones with live action, that's a whole different issue. Okay. And Nathan is just announcing this weekend at the Bigfoot concert conference. He's going to be there doing shorts and videos. This is fantastic, Nathan. I do hope you enjoy yourself there, because Lord knows the shorts you're bringing into the table will be enjoyable. There's no doubt there from my standpoint. Football goals. Harrison Ford made an appearance in my dream last night. Well, that's an interesting. I've always found that most of the time, when a celebrity shows up in somebody's mind, in somebody's dream, it very seldom is directly referring to that celebrity. More often than not, it has more to do with where you're aiming to get your life, even if it's on a subconscious level. Okay, now I'm not quite certain what that one comment that came in, I'm not entirely certain of. But that's okay. No. World, not vegans. We are talking vegans. These guys are an interesting crew. Okay. Now, I did in this group, they are kind of insectivorous, but they have absolutely no pain center. Now, I did sketch that's one of the few races I've actually sketched out. As a matter of fact, I wonder if let me see here. Let's see if I've got them. Not in there. So let us go back to desktop to Phoenix. And of course, we're not going to find what I'm looking for. Of course not. Why would that be any different today? Nope, not there. And I don't know offhand where it got put to. So I'm just not going to waste a whole lot more time here, because it just annoys me when I do that. This is what I mean by technology, and I do not necessarily why voices? I cannot say for certain, but I do feel if they do, it's a really bad idea. iVoices is asking, Keith, is the government going to reveal that aliens exist during the hearing on the 26th? I would not hold my breath on it for a lot of reasons. Okay, they are likely to allude to it without anything concrete. What have we got here? The nice little part about it is at least they're bringing the topic to the forefront. But I would be inclined to say you could be looking at another 20 to 50 years before they actually turn around and say it's really there. That's just the sad reality of it. Frost Kitten, how you doing? Glad you could join us. We are looking at an interesting situation here. The fact of the matter is society has been built on the concept that we are frankly alone. There are no other sentient races. And yet the basic view of it is something that is becoming a very different setup. We have to remember there's a lot of things that people are now finding out that they're having a hard time getting around. Is the government going to come out and say, absolutely? Well, it's already happened once in the past there, football. Okay. The reality of it is there was one president in the distant past here, well, not so distant, that alluded to the fact he was going to reveal it, and within days he was dead. But you got to remember, the way society is built, we are taught that first and foremost, that mankind, that humans, are the top of the totem pole. It is hogwash, I'm telling you. But that's what we have, that's what we've been looking at. Okay. So if all of a sudden society, if all of a sudden the government comes out and says, hey, by the way, first and foremost, we've been lying to you all along. There really are off-worlders. There really are ancient races. Okay, but now we're telling you that we did that for your own good. You think people's outlook on the government is bad now. Wait till you pull that one off. Not to mention the entire backbone of the religious section of the world will get turned right on its ear. Okay. And this is why I tell you, if you're sitting there, if you're sitting listening to people telling you we're all doomed, mankind is the top of the totem pole. Okay, if mankind were the top of the totem pole, mankind, the scientists would go, oh, there's another race. Look, we've got a visitor from XYZ planet or XYZ solar system. Okay, this is not what is happening. And football's going, will the U.S. ever have a female president? Well, the fact that you've asked ever, the answer is quite frankly yes. Okay. However, on the path that the U.S. is on right now, they are pushing the button and getting back to the idea that women won't have the right to vote. Now, you just look at the markings on the wall. They're cutting back on female rights, left, right, and center. Okay, and it's being complicated by some of the other venues that are being pushed. Absolutely, they do, Frost Kitten. Humans have an extremely high opinion of themselves. Yeah, somehow, see, for me, it's simple. I don't own any aliens. Okay. Got friends that are aliens. I got friends in really high places. Come to think of it, I've got some friends that at one point were really high. But that's another type of high. The reality of it is this. Okay, when we take a look at the Sanguinan, the Sanguinan do walk amongst humans, but they are not an off-world race. They're an ancient race. They are another branch of the human race. Okay, but instead of going the route of becoming farmers and becoming, sheep herders and what have you, they became hunters. Okay, and developed a very specific requirement for their diet. Okay, now something you got to keep in mind is there are lots of single individuals that may be more talented than you in certain areas, but as a species go, not one race is better or worse than the next. Now, Football Cat is asking, do Sanguinan hate humans? Not in the slightest. Okay, they'll have them for dinner anytime. Mind you, they do prefer bloodletting to actually the meat. But no, Sanguinan are, frankly, they're not afraid of humans, but they are very aware of what they're capable of. Okay, now I'm looking at this. Where is it? Right there. Let's move that up out of the way so I can see what's going on. Now, when we take a look at the Sanguinan, Humans are very much as they emulate all sorts of different political arrays. Okay, Sanguinan are very straightforward. They are a monarchy. Okay, and it's a very blunt. It's a very blunt monarchy. Ah, World goes. When I saw Sanguinan, I thought it said Sagan. You know, well, the Sahagin are real. They're just not Sanguinan. And we will get to that's the neat part about it. When you take a look at the whole 9 yards, okay. When you take a look at the whole D&D thing, all of that research that went into the creatures of Dungeons and Dragons, and for that matter of Harn, and there's a few others that do that very well. What they've actually done is a bunch of research into races that are actually real. They've called them different things than what the races call themselves. Now where are we here? Okay. Yeah, hey Philip, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Philip is just letting us know he was just watching a beautiful interview with Joseph Campbell. Okay. Then yeah, I'm not sure where you're going there, but Nathan's asked, do the Sanguinan live in any place? Well, Sanguinan you'll find living in virtually any place. Some of them are a little twisted, and they will live in the cabin. They will find a place to sleep in mausoleums, in crypts, that sort of thing. These are a fringe group. Most of them find a place that they can live in where they hole up for the day. They may well be working amongst you. Now, do understand, there is a very big difference between the vampire community, okay, which are the people that dress like vampires and strive to stand out and show up. They'll dress in very odd fashions, like this kind of attire. Now, the artist I got to draw this, the idea was from his standpoint, it seems, to go, okay, here is what people will recognize as a Sanguinan. Do understand, they do not dress like this. Okay, the people in the vampire community quite often will dress in that fashion, but these are not true Sanguinan. Okay, true Sanguinan, what you'll find is they like to blend in. Oh, okay. Chad, how you doing? Glad you're here. Hope you're feeling better and that your day is going reasonably well. Yeah, like it's neat here. Nathan goes, he's been hearing vampire stories from Louisiana for years. They live all over the place. Normally, they won't live in the heart of a city. Too easy to get stumbled upon and then terminated. Joe, Sanguinan will look exactly like anybody. They can pass for humans, walking amongst you without a big problem. Okay, and I will eliminate a couple of things. Okay, number one, that neat little idea of a cross. Okay, that neat little idea of having a cross that they worry about, they will drive them back. That only works if the specific Sanguinan actually believes in the power of the cross. If he doesn't, you may as well be holding up a fork. It won't make a lot of difference to them. Yeah, football goes, the teeth gives them away. Pretty much. Okay. And by the way, the neat part there is in the vampire community, yes, some people in the vampire community will absolutely emulate a Sanguinan. But what they do is they get their teeth filed. I do feel for them later on. because that's going to cause a problem. Oh, Philip's going, what characters in D&D can be linked to Neo from the Matrix by disobeying the Dungeon Master? Gee, just about any gamer I know of will take a look at what the Dungeon Master says and go, I'm going that direction. I know you've got this whole planned out. I remember years ago, we had our game master had spent 6 months building a 12-floor dungeon. It was supposed to take close to a year to clean out. We barely got into it, cast one spell, and wiped the dungeon out. By the way, rock to mud in D&D, really, really dangerous spell. Okay, but just about any character I know of in D&D will act like Neo. But you're looking at Neo himself, you'd have to be looking at a psionicist. Now, I'm just going back up here a little. Joe, with you having the graveyard behind you, the answer is yeah. In all likelihood, you quite possibly could. Do understand, if you do see one, this does not mean you're in danger. Okay, people only become endangered when they go hunting Sanguinan. You go hunting one, you're asking for a problem. I was talking to one person at one point, and they wanted to catch, nope. They wanted to track down what the heck was the name? Let's go all the way back up here. All the way up to the top. That's Anunnaki. These people wanted to track down an Ilarian. Well, in all fairness, they did say they wanted to track down a werewolf and try and get into its lair and confront it in its own lair. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but if you look at the actual outlay of an actual werewolf, you go track it down and corner it in its lair, this is not going to end well. At least not for you. Okay. Frostkitten, that sort of depends. A Sanguinan does not technically die, by natural causes. From human standpoint, Sanguinan are essentially immortal. As long as they can get fresh blood, they're fine. And no, they don't have to rely on human blood. They just need blood that is very high in iron. Which pretty much means any, that they're looking at any carbon-based mammal. Okay, that's what they're looking for. Now, yes, many prefer humans, but then that's kind of like saying lots of people drink beer, but some like fine wine. It's still alcohol, but it's got a better flavor. Okay, according to some people. Now, what have we got here? Kind of, yes. Matter of fact, I wonder, because I am looking at that. Let me open that other book up. Where are we? We go. No. We want to go open, browse. I want Races of the Worlds Volume 2, that one. Bring that up, and then we go find, and we go. There we are. And these guys I'm about to mention are actually in Volume 2. Okay. The Yoyan. Okay. The Yoyan are essentially what you would call a jellyfish. There's more information I've got that I'm working on, but they're in book 2. Okay. But yes, Jellyfish themselves essentially are immortal. And from what scientists have been able to figure out, so are the lobsters. Curiosity. Nope, haven't got that one. Okay. Not a problem there, Philip. Yeah, some people produce a very high amount of iron, but here's the thing. Just because a human has high iron, this does not make them even partially sanguine. Okay. Some humans just simply are high in iron. Very much like in my case, I'm very high in bone. Fortunately, I don't have osteoporosis or anything like that. Cowie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, so I mean, from that standpoint, when we look at the Sanguinan, understand they are a society within human society, and yes, during the night or during the winter, during the day, sometimes it boils down to this: if the sun is in hiding, then you may find a Sanguinan out and about. It's not that they are allergic to the sun, but they do burn extremely easily. Oh, Philip, what I mean by that is, according to the doctors, my bone density is way higher than normal. Okay. And that's just what I've been told. Never done any research on it myself, except when I broke my arm, they took a look at the bone density at that point, and they said it was way too high. Well, it's high. It's great from my standpoint. You know, bones are difficult to break, and no, that's not an invitation to test it. Okay. The good part is I don't have any of the bone-related illnesses. Okay. But when you're looking at Sanguinan, we're talking high iron requirement, but their body doesn't produce it properly. Okay. World, how you doing? Yeah, as a matter of fact, you ran a while ago. But no, I have seen creatures like the Neotiug. Okay. They are not, as near as I have been able to determine, they're not sentient, although they are a great cleanup crew. The neat part of them. Uh-oh. Yeah, Frost Kitten goes, so no block with your forehead. I ran into a wall. I was working at Dairy Queen at the time, and somebody opened up the door to a 45 right beside me in the middle of a rush. I didn't see it, so when I turned around, I caught it right here. And all I got was a shift in direction. So I went around the corner and finished my shift. Finished the lunch rush. And all I got from my boss was, "What the bleep happened?" I come back into the kitchen, and where I caught the door, number one, I didn't even I didn't even break the skin on my forehead. Right. But what I did do was took the wall, two of the shelves on the door, right out of commission out of the cupboard. Okay. So football's going to Seguin and live in Alaska like that movie 30 Days of Night. Some do, yes. But like many people, they still prefer the warmth. But there are some that live up north. Much like, if you think about it, the Eskimos do. And no, Eskimos are not by and large Sanguinan. But there are certainly some that live up there because, let's face it, up north where it's dark, okay, not so much trouble with direct sunlight. but they do have to go into hiding during the 6 months of sun. That's the fun part about it. Let us take a look at that. Get that back to live. That way we can see what's going on. Now, if you're in all fairness, I don't see him. My dad used to hang around with him, and if you count my dad's teachings, okay, my dad absolutely ran into them and brought some of the knowledge back with him. When you start looking at the Northern medicine men, and for that matter, many of the older so-called First Nations medicine men, they have an innate understanding of, they've got an innate understanding of natural healing techniques. Many of your pagan healers, also known as witches, are healers. They were not evil people. Sanguinan on their own, by and large, are not evil people either. No, football Sanguinan do not walk on water. Okay. They can certainly swim, but they don't walk on water by any functional stretch. Okay. And yes, frost kitten, there are absolutely hybrids. Okay. Some Sanguinan will, because of the nature of what they are, do end up creating extra, like the idea, how do I put this? The idea of them transmitting vampirism as an actual illness is very much a reality, but not all of them do it. Okay. As a matter of fact, they can actually learn to not do it. But you gotta remember, when you're looking at even a hybrid Sanguinan, they will not ever sharpen their teeth. The moment you're talking to somebody that goes, "I'm a vampire and I've sharpened my teeth," they are choosing a way of life. It's a lifestyle, not a species thing. Because Sanguinan don't have to sharpen their teeth. Okay. They also, you'll find, first and foremost, they are not afraid of the cross. They are susceptible to sunlight. Absolutely. High concentrations of garlic will drive them bananas. Doesn't kill them, but you think about it. Their senses are at an all-time high. Therefore, if you take the smell of raw crushed garlic, if you think it's rough on your sinuses, try it on theirs. Okay, these are some of the things that we're taught. The other thing is, no, they do not actually move faster than sight. They are very quick. But what they can do is alter their physical density in order to pass through things. The answer to your question there, Cowie, is yes. Okay, there's a graveyard around here that's not really that far from where I live, depending on what you call far. It's about half an hour away, but I know for an absolute certainty that there are a couple of Sanguinan that live in that graveyard. No, I'm not going to tell you which tomb they're in or which mausoleum they're in. Not going to happen. Okay, in my eyes, they're not doing anything wrong, because when you're looking at a true Sanguinan, the reality is they're not going after mainstream people. They will go after problem children because, and when I mean problem, I don't mean street people. I mean people that are incessantly breaking human law and getting away with it. Philip goes, are they why we have the expression to bite someone's head off? No, you can probably blame that on the Teklek. Or for that matter, Strazazian. Okay, either one will take the head off somebody. Yeah, world goes, oh, come on, vampire hunters got to get paid too. And vampire hunters do get paid. Problem is, most vampire hunters are taught their vampire hunting skills by Hollywood, which is a surefire way to get you killed. Okay, but the neat part is, who's going to go? If you're wise, you're not going to go and track a vampire down in its own den. Because here's the thing: let's say you pop a den and pop pop a sleeping chamber open during daylight. No, not 100%, but they're pretty close. I mean, let's face it, world. They did get the fact that vampires will pass as humans correct. Okay, they absolutely did get that part right. Okay, they did get right the fact that they do have a high healing rate. They do appear to move quickly. They are absolutely, well, that depends on, Phil's going, are all vampire hunters sexy in real life? That sort of depends on what you consider sexy. Okay, I have seen some vampire hunters that used to make old boss Hogg look like he was a spring chicken. Now, if you know who Boss Hogg is, this tells right off the bat about how old you are. Yeah, I didn't actually see that one there, World. World Bigfoot is going, Fearless Vampire Killers was a hilarious movie. Absolutely, World. Now, if you consider Boss Hogg's physique as sexy, okay, then yeah, absolutely. Many of them are. Now, I know most people are taught to believe that the Barbie doll figure on women is the best looking. Okay. And there is certainly an appeal to it. But I've seen people, like I remember one lass that she could have been a runway model, but was madly in love with a guy that, I kid you not, he literally had to buy 2 plane tickets if he wanted to fly anywhere. Okay, now, Cowie, the answer to your question, way back when we go back to the beginnings of mankind, when mankind was just coming out of the caves and becoming gatherers. Okay, instead of becoming gatherers, Sanguinan were another branch of humans that they were a small clan to start with that turned the route. They turned the route of simply going after. They took the whole idea of bloodletting to a brand new level. Okay, what ended up happening is some of them developed a absolute shortage of iron, but they found that by drinking blood directly, they'd replenish their iron, and it became a way of life. And of course, you get a male and a female that have the same illness, and all of a sudden, you're dealing with the birth of the Sanguinan, as compared to the birth of the Homo sapien, of the Gigantopithecus. You go Homo erectus, and there's a bunch of others in there: Gigantopithecus, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, Homo sapien, and now what some people are calling Homo superior. Okay, and frankly, it's a lousy name because they aren't superior to anybody. Phil's going sexy physical attributes that measure 1 to 1.618. Well, that's an interesting. So I have no idea what that ratio is for there, Philip, to be honest. Yeah, no doubt. Joe, I'm looking at what you're describing there, and I'd be inclined to say you are probably looking at one. Okay, now rest assured, Sanguinan do not come hunting just anybody. They really don't. Well, that's always handy there, world. Yeah, I've heard the term before. I just never looked into it, which is really, I think where I heard it was I took a course in theoretical genetics when I was in grade 8, which absolutely threw the teachers for a loop that I could wrap my brain around at all. World, there's a lot, just about every species, just about every type of people have bad jokes. And this is why I don't personally take offense to people that come up with blonde jokes or Newfie jokes or Irish jokes, because they're interchangeable to dang near any species. Yeah. And Cowie, I'm looking at that. If Louisiana has a high ratio of supposed vampire sightings, it wouldn't surprise me to find out they're down there, because they are a race that's been around. Well, frankly, they've been around as long as man. Okay. But are they inherently evil? Not at all. Boy, that came out well, didn't it? Are they inherently evil? No. What they are is they are inherently hunters. Okay. And it's wonderful when somebody goes, I'm going hunting a vampire. I'm going to hunt a Sanguinan. Isn't that? I have no idea, Philip. I have absolutely. Philip's just going, who's a famous Newfie comedian? I have no idea. Okay. Of course, in all fairness, according to my son, I don't have a sense of humor to work with. But somebody in the chat room here, I have no doubt knows of famous Newfie comedians. What am I looking for here? Not that. Let's grab that and move it over here. Pop that up there. Let's see what we get. Okay, we have a chap by the name of. We have a gentleman out of Newfoundland by the name of the question again that I asked here came up. What was it? Who are the most famous? Let's see, who is the most famous Newfie comedian? Oh, well, there you go. You want a famous Newfie comedian? Jim Carrey. Right off the bat. Okay. Number one top Canadian comedian. Oh, that's top Canadian comedian. There's a lot of them really that are Canadian. But this gentleman by the name of Sean Majunder he was born in Burlington, Newfoundland. Okay. So, but how he got over there, I don't know. That's the wonderful thing about getting sidetracked in a hurry. Shut that down. Okay. But from my standpoint, I look at it this way. Okay. When we're looking at like comedians, again, and I do appreciate that there, Frost. I look at the world in a very simplistic fashion. But when you're looking at the Sanguinan, yes, some of them have a sense of humor as well. But we are not talking about about a group that is inherently evil or inherently complicated. We're talking about a group that simply has a different way of looking at the world. But one thing you got to remember again, when we're looking at Sanguinan, they are another member of they are another species on this planet that evolved here. And when I talk about working together, we can all, we've got to all work together. This includes working with the ancient races, okay, and any of the off-world races that have decided to set up home here. And yes, there are some that have set up home, not the least of which, and this is one of those neat little things that ought to be entertaining. Okay, they ought to find it if they keep going at the rate they're going. The scientists down in the heart of Antarctica right now, they're looking around for signs of civilization. They're likely to stumble across something they're not expecting. Until now. Okay, and when I'm talking the heart of Antarctica, I don't mean right at the South Pole. I'm referring to in the area away from the hole in the middle. Okay, but the Moldakians landed here, and we'll use the term landed a little loosely, but they crashed here way back before mankind ever evolved. Yeah, Frost Kitten goes, there's a fictional story called Werewolves Are A-Holes. There's a good listen. Well written and read. Yeah, I like finding things out by accident, but I prefer being a little bit ahead of the game. Okay. Now, here's a question for you, Nathan. You likely know this better than I do because I refuse to do any functional research. I just know what I've run into and what I've been told. They found the saucers, which is great, but as far as you're aware, did they actually find a Colosseum designed ship? Okay, in Antarctica. In all likelihood, it's still buried under the ice. Okay, but the Moldakian generation ships, the Moldakian generation ships look very much like the ancient Roman Colosseums. Okay, except for the fact they were sealed. Had to be. Had something to do with the fact, don't seal it and fire it into outer space, see what happens. Yeah, and that's the neat little part. Hollow Earth, the access to Hollow Earth is absolutely there. But getting into Hollow Earth or into Inner Earth or whatever term people want to use is going to be a little bit of a hiccup. In all fairness, Philip, I have no idea what the Galactic Parliament Bill 365 is. Okay. I have no idea what that is. And as for do we get along with anyone who supports it? Well, I have to say it depends on what the bill is before I can give you an answer to that. Okay, I will tell you this. If we are talking about something that isolates people or puts them either puts them on an elevated stand or makes it, either puts them on an elevated stand or puts them as less valuable than others, I can see me having problems with it. We got to remember, we're referring to things that the government is up to, and frankly, I don't deal with them much. Thank you very much. I figure 4 years in my labs when I was just a tiny lad, that was enough for me. The one saving grace I've got is I've got no concrete proof, which means anybody can take what I'm looking at and go, that is just your opinion, and you're just making it up as you go along. And I'm okay with that. I came to the conclusion, this is the same for you guys. Once you've had an experience that goes beyond the accepted norm, Don't worry about whether other people believe it. Okay, it's not a functionally relevant concern. What does matter is whether you can work with it. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Nathan's just going, Admiral Byrd was ordered to amend his story to not expose everything down there. Well, like I said, that's one of these issues where I look at and go, it's not an entirely bad idea to keep it somewhat contained because all of society would have to deal with an interesting twist. And right now, let's face it, humans are going to have a problem with that on the whole. You think about it. How many of you have been taught that, mankind is the top of the totem pole, as it were? There's a lot of really decent people out there. From my standpoint, I've just decided I'm going to put it out there. Here's the neat little part. Okay, anytime you have documentation, mankind, humans on the whole will find a way to say that's fake. Okay, you take a look, for instance, at the moon landing. Now, I don't know about the veracity of the films. I am not a video analyst. Okay. The fact that they're saying that this diary was discredited, and that it was fake, does not mean it was fake. Okay, like Nathan puts here, it's still real, No, a lot of the trips into orbit were designed for other purposes, but has man been back to the moon on a regular basis? Yes, just not every single launch. Okay, do they know that there's stuff on the so-called dark side of the moon? Certainly. Okay, but they're not going to tell you that. Not yet. So I mean, we have to take a look at it. And it's very much, oh, by the way, something that actually is kind of an odd setup. Well, real but censored would be a good way to put it. If you think about it, again, I'm just going to bounce back here for one thing that they did get right about vampires. In the beginning, the Sanguinan did tend to take to sleeping in coffins, primarily because it was the easiest way to get a place, to get in and to get a bed that nobody turned the lights on for. So they go to sleep in a coffin. On occasion, what would happen is they get buried. As in the coroner come along and go, oh, let's grab this coffin. We've got a dead body, and this one's way too heavy. Uh-oh, we forgot to get this one buried. They bury them. But what happens with a Sanguinan, you don't feed it. It goes into a form of hibernation. What do we got here? Cowie's going, Jessica, the cryptid huntress, did a remote view on the moon. She wasn't allowed to say what she saw. See, this is the funny part. I can tell you what's over there. I cannot prove it. And anybody can come along and go, no, he's just making it up. Like, here's a really cute one for you. And they'll figure this and they'll release this information in somewhere between 50 and 100 years. Everybody is happy, is healthier when they're happy. But here is something about the moon that is just absolutely bizarre for you. You've got about a 2 millimeter, maybe, in other words, like a 16th of an inch type thing or less, of atmosphere on the moon now. But in case you hadn't noticed, people are not able to breathe on the moon when you only got that little bit of atmosphere. Okay, Sanguinan don't actually have to breathe. This is one of the neat little ideas. And that's going to broaden the question, are there vampires on the moon? Or have the Sanguinan arrived at the moon? Well, technically they could get there, although they would have to hitch a ride on a ship. But here's the kicker. Going to live on the moon is a little bit of a problem. If you've got the option of living right next door to a cattle ranch or living on the top of Mount Everest and you require red meat, where are you going to choose to live? Personally, I like the warmth. But this is why the Sanguinan do not frequent the moon. There's no food supply there to speak of. Okay, and rest assured, you start taking on one member of a community where there's only 10 members, it makes one heck of a dent. The reality is the moon is up and active. Okay. Something, and I don't know if this is accurate or not. The Apollo mission that I believe it was Apollo 13, where the quote was, it came back as, absolutely agree with you, Philip. The quote came back as NASA, we have a problem. That is not entirely accurate. From what I gathered, the actual comment was, NASA, we had a problem. Okay. The problem was they saw what was going on over there and didn't know how to cope with it. All of a sudden they got way too much data. And of course, the data banks had to be scrubbed when they got back down to eliminate the information. But here's the neat little part. They didn't wipe the information out. They moved it out of ready access. And personally, I don't blame them. The Sanguinan, what essentially happened is they became a hunter race. The big difference, and this is why humans don't like them much, okay, is because they did find that the blood of a human was much more useful to them. Bear in mind, genetically, they've got the same base, which is why the blood of a human will satiate a Sanguinan much more readily than the blood of a pig. Civilization is a little lax. It has a way station. Okay. On the far side of the moon, there is a way station where many races check in, and they check in. They have to let, if you will, customs know they're in the area. They're here to do research. This is the part of the planet they're going to. Okay, or they stop by, refuel, and carry on. However, they have learned, because their technology is so much higher than man's. Okay. Well, is it a duck blind for observation of Earth? In a manner of speaking, although it wasn't set there as a duck blind. It was set there as a balance point for gravitational modulation. Okay. But it was put there when Earth was put together. Oh, well, if you talk to the Chinese, they probably do. I don't know. I know who built the moon. I don't know who's laying claim to it on Earth. Okay. But none of the races, none of the members of the Galactic Consortium that I'm aware of have ever laid claim to it, because they know who built it. And it wasn't them. Okay. But the same person and the same pair that built Earth, that got Earth started, okay, are the same ones. Well, more to the point, the one of them built the moon as a counterbalance to hold things into a stable pattern so life could evolve properly. Now, do understand, not only did life evolve, parts of it were accelerated with the assistance of other entities. Okay. By the way, we can safely say no, the Sanguinan had nothing to do with the building of the moon. And no, the moon is not hollow. Although the outer core of it, the outer crust of it, is riddled with catacombs, much like Earth. Okay. Well, that was the whole thing. See, when you take a look at the moon, it was put in place to actually give the ebb and flow. Basically, they work as a heart pump. Okay. The other counterpoint that was put in place quite intentionally was Mobius, which is on the other side of the sun in exactly the same orbit, speed of rotation, the whole 9 yards. It's an absolute replica of Earth as far as its physical construction goes. The difference is that Mobius evolved as a Mobius did. It is just simply a rock that was put there. It is not a Caboran. Okay, but Las Vegas, glad you could join us. Gotta check something here. Oh, by the way, we had another problem today. My fan up and died on me. I'm gonna have to go and buy a new one tomorrow. Yeah, the funny thing is, and here's something I've been playing with. I'm actually looking into the possibility of it. And no, I am not an astronomer by any means, but with everything I've seen, okay, we have Sol here, our sun. Okay, from everything I've seen, it is very likely, because of the counterbalance point, because of the way evolution has happened, when we take a look at the triple helix, the whole 9 yards, I am absolutely certain, cannot prove it, not an astronomer, not an astrophysicist. Sorry, I don't work that way. But I will tell you, I am firmly convinced that our sun is not a single sun. I am firmly convinced that it is a trinary sun. Okay, but we're not talking about each sun influencing Earth. We're talking about one sun here, one sun here, one sun here, and all of them traveling around at the same pace while they're going through the cosmos. Can I prove it? No. Okay, but if I understood what I was showing, that's what we're looking at. Okay, are you likely to find out about it this lifetime? I'd be amazed if you even found out that there was a binary system here. But we are talking so far outside of itself because they got to be far enough away that they're not causing a planetary disturbance over the power of their own gravitational pulls, or more to the point, pushes. But the neat part about it, when we start looking at Sanguinan, okay, they evolved on Earth. They do run as a monarchy. And I'll tell you, they've got some violent ways of dealing with things. Where are we here? Let us go back down to that. Oh, no, that's book 2. Don't need that. That won't work. Let us go to home. It didn't work with the home. I love when that happens. There we are. Find. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, their method is absolutely brilliant. But I will tell you this, the Sanguinan, number one, they worship a young lass by the name of Natosh. Okay. Okay. Kind of, if you like, a dark god. Okay. Not really a dark one, just very different from what you're used to. although very similar to what the theological sources actually dictate. I mean, we look at the whole situation we're dealing with, okay, and mankind did absolutely gain dominant control of the surface of the world. Absolutely, they did. Something to do with the fact that daylight gives you a lot more time to function. Okay, unless you go to the really inhospitable parts, like it's almost unheard of to hear of a Sanguinan in the Amazon. Doesn't work that way. Not well. Actually, in the Amazon, it's not too terribly bad. In some parts, like if you look at the heart of the Amazonian rainforest, that's another issue. Okay, but they are very much a monarchy running with what humans would call a caste system. Oh, this picture here. I did forget about that neat little part. This outfit that we're looking at here. And for those of you that are, actually in here, this is great. You're not on radio. But if you take a look at that cloak, okay, they are designed with a very specific material. Essentially, this is a wraparound hang glider, thereby giving the Sanguinan the appearance of being able to fly. They carry a hang glider with them, makes it real easy. Okay. So from that standpoint, they absolutely do fit in quite nicely. They do, and they'll blend in very nicely. But when there's a big difference between a Sanguinan and a member of the vampire community. Okay. And I don't find fault in any of it. Okay. Somebody wants to be a member of the vampire community. To me, it's very much like being a member of cosplay. Nathan, the answer to that is yes. Okay, this is the picture that I've got drawn up to go into the second printing of Races of the Worlds. As a matter of fact, the different pictures that I've shown people are coming from that. Those of you that got the newsletter, that picture of the Zeta Reticulum is the one that's in the book. Okay. I figured I've got the pictures now available. As a matter of fact, I keep meaning to write my artist and get back to work on that. But yeah, that's very much the same one. I like what World does. It's 100% bloodstain resistant. Absolutely. Mind you, it's not just bloodstain. Because of the way they do them, because of the way that they build it. Remember that issue I mentioned about they are able to modify their density so they can pass through solid objects? The answer is yeah, or appear to. It's not that they pass through a solid object. It's that they can move extremely fast, and that result they'll disappear through a door without a problem. I.e., if you crack the door, they'll come through it. Thing is, the reason that this whole misconception that you have to give them permission before they will enter a room, before they'll enter a building, is not because of some mystical barrier that stops them. It's not a question of, oh, you absolutely have to give them permission or they can't come in. It's a question of upbringing. They are taught, if somebody doesn't invite you in, don't care how badly you want to go in, you're not invited, you don't go. Okay? And unlike the early years of mankind, when a parent said, don't do this. I don't care how badly you want to go and look into this. Don't. In humans' cases, the parents would beat the living stuffing out of their kid for going in the wrong place. Okay, with the Sanguinan, if you're told you don't enter without knocking, you enter without knocking, somebody's likely to remove your lungs. Okay. And it's just that simple. Now, they are higher bone density, and this is why, this is why they can leave marks that are just brutal on somebody. It's because of the fact because their calcium buildup is rather high density, tightly packed. So I mean, all in all, you are looking at an interesting race. You can absolutely, by the way, sit down with them. They're not likely to eat a normal meal because their body won't digest it. Absolutely, Callie. That is upbringing. And I was looking into that myself. And I am playing with an idea. I gotta double check it. But there is a very good possibility that the black-eyed children and the Sanguinan are connected. I'm just not entirely certain how yet. Okay, what I do know is that they both have similar traits. By the way, the black-eyed children will not drink people's blood. Okay, they have a problem with the whole idea of getting dirty, period, which is half the reason that most of them float. That was sort of what I was thinking in all fairness, and World goes, baby vampires? Quite probably. It was something that just came to my attention probably about a week ago, that the black-eyed children, with their comparative belief structures, it is very possible that the black-eyed children are simply Sanguinan. Okay, because you got to remember, what happens when the pupil in somebody's eyes gets absolutely huge? That's terrible. That is just terrible there, Frost. Yeah, World just adds to that. Yeah, all of a sudden we've gone down a very bad rock road. The black-eyed pea children. I believe, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, World, but black-eyed peas, were they not a rock band of sorts about 15 years back? Or possibly still today? But it came to my attention that the black-eyed children may be what they basically are and why they showed up as they did. Okay. See, I never did pay much attention to rap, except, well, I do like chicken rap and beef rap, that sort of thing. But the first true rapper that I ever listened to was Johnny Cash. Understanding my definition of rap is essentially speaking to a beat, which was a lot of the way that Johnny Cash sang. But when you start looking at the behavioral patterns of black-eyed children, sure, I just about went of black-eyed peas, but not necessarily a good meal, by the way. But if you look at the behavioral patterning of the black-eyed children as compared to the Sanguinan, it is very likely. But I will look more into that before I get to book 2. I've got to get back in. Give me 10 seconds. I will be right back, assuming I don't fall down. And we're back. neat part about my world. Anyway, what do we got here? Just catching up on what I missed here. Now, the reality of it is, yeah, the reality of it is well, I call it reality. The number of different races that are walking around this planet, mankind is clearly not alone. No, not black-eyed not black-eyed kids at the door. I think my son had an Amazon package show up. I think. And from what I gather, it may be part of a computer. No, not a supercomputer. By the way, I was in a restaurant the other day, yesterday, that was absolutely brilliant. Never again will I go there, but they had one of these newfangled robot waiters. The thing was more glitchy than you would believe. The waitresses had to chase the dang. It was supposed to bring the food out to the table, right? And then the waitresses were supposed to unload it. Unfortunately, the thing refused to stop at the end to stay stopped. It would come to the table with the food, and the moment a waitress took a step towards it, it would back away and start to run off. Now, this is not a good investment in my eyes. So I mean, I'm looking at this going, you didn't think that through. But, I mean, that particular restaurant, never, in all likelihood, will I ever set foot in it. Already was there once. I've been disgusted by restaurants because of their lack of cleanliness and what have you. This one with the cleanliness, well, the cleanliness of the place was fine, but I kid you not, I was there for almost an hour and a half, and the table across the bench from me wasn't clean. It was occupied when I got there, but half an hour after I got there, they left. An hour and a half after that, the table still had dishes on it. Yeah. Cowie goes, it's funny to watch NASA reps get on TV and they keep saying we have found no life in outer space. Well, you got to remember, in all deference to scientists, I remember a 3-year study. Okay. Garland was priceless. But I heard about 2 years ago, I heard about a scientific study, and you'll love this one. It took them 3 years to figure this out. Okay. Now, what they discovered was 90% of shark attacks happen in shallow water. Okay, now here's a question for you guys. I'm dead serious about this. Okay. I'm dead serious about this question. Can any one of you explain with reasonable certainty why as much as 90% of shark attacks happen in shallow water? I'm going to give you a couple minutes and I will give you the answer I came up with. It makes total logical sense. But if you ever, I'm looking at this world, and you take a look at a lot of the acronyms. NASA, never a straight answer. Then you have the CIA, and there's all sorts of derogatory terms that can be used. Okay, yes, I do have a couple of them, and I just figure safer if I don't go there. World, that would be the reason. But it took them 3 years to figure this out. I looked at that and went, well, 90% will happen there because you don't find humans in the deep water very much. Unless you're one of the unfortunate travelers. I forget the name of the ship. There was a military ship there was a military warship back in the Second World War where they ended up in the water, and most of them ended up dead because of shark attacks. Okay, but that doesn't happen very much. Philip goes, because it can't figure out if you're food or not as easily in shallow water. Oh, sharks don't have a problem figuring out if you're food. Okay, in shallow, sharks simply look at you. You're not one of them, you're food. For that matter, many of them, you are one of them, you're food. They are essentially a perfect eating machine. Okay, and they don't have a fussy problem. They're not picky. Well, technically they are. They'll pick off anybody. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that, oh, you look like a seal. No, humans don't look like a seal. To a shark, humans look like food. Ouch. Frost is going. Saw a video today of a little girl that floated almost a mile out on a unicorn floaties. Thank God she was rescued. Absolutely. I watched one the other day, a little video where this little Chihuahua type dog fell off a cabin cruiser in the middle of the ocean. Right, and they were traveling along. Poor little pup fell off. A dolphin come up underneath it and kind of lifted it out of the water and then went across the surface to get back to the boat, to catch up to the cabin cruiser and put the pup back on the back deck. Now the reality is, if people, if animals will help animals, why won't people help people? Okay, and then people call themselves civilized. I got a call today I got a call a couple of days ago, actually, from somebody looking for a little bit of help. Now, they've been given a bit of a short stick, right? But like I said, I don't know what they did with the dolphin, but yeah, absolutely, that dolphin was absolutely a brilliant little individual. This is why I take a look. Like I've mentioned, if you see something you like, absolutely repost it. Like I reposted one on Twitter. I retweeted, I think is what they call it. A deer had walked out in traffic and stood in front of a car. Right. The guy stopped and he tried to shoo the deer out from in front of the car, and the deer was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Long story short, the guy followed the deer for about 10 minutes until the deer led him back to this community, then back to this little house where the fawn had gotten tangled in one of those mesh nets. Okay, so the guy went in. Of course, the poor deer was just panicking, right, as the guy untangled the little deer. Well, got the fawn untangled, and then before the guy could pull away, the fawn ran over in front of the car and laid down. Right, just laid down right in front of the car so the guy couldn't go anywhere. Right. As it turned out, the poor little fawn just wanted to say thank you. Well, and that's a neat one there. Philip's just saying there's a neat study from Southern California that just finished. They were watching sharks where people swim regularly. The sharks would swim up to people, then turn around and swim away. How you doing, Patty B? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has been going well. The fact of the matter is, wild animals can get along. You remember the story that everybody hears about if you follow Christianity at all? They talk about humans and animals getting along. They can, and they do. Okay, and it still happens to this day. But what we have to remember is it boils down to respecting nature, respecting the world in which we live. One of the things we do have to remember is that when we're looking at the Sanguinan, The one thing about Sanguinan that stands out for me is they have a tendency of carrying themselves with a lot more. Well, that depends on your seasoning. They have a tendency of carrying themselves with a lot more class or a lot more dignity than many humans do. Okay. Oh no. World goes, humans taste terrible, full of preservatives, additives, and weird chemicals. That's why the sharks turn their noses up. That's just a terrible mix. Don't get me wrong, Patty, but myself, I don't like chocolate. So for me, chocolate is a great way to destroy a cup of coffee. I know a lot of people like it. Myself, not so much. But, we have to, the thing I get a kick out of is when you take a look at the shark. The shark goes, if a Sanguinan does happen to be in the water, in the water, clearly it would be at night. Okay, they do swim periodically. But picture what's going to happen to a shark if it bites into a Sanguinan. The Sanguinan is likely to turn around and bite back. Oh, that's easy. Philip goes, look up the diver with a friend tiger shark. The dodo has neat footage. She likes getting pats on the nose. Animals like physical contact. You got to remember, that is their way of a handshake. More often than not, it literally is physical interaction. Now, I saw a bunch of videos the other day with baby elephants, getting right carried away looking for attention. It was funny, really, although it could have worked out to be disaster. The neat part about it, going back up here, the funny thing is, everybody likes their own taste. Everybody's got their own taste. I'm the last person to tell somebody what should be good. Baby elephants are. The funny thing there, Philip, I watched a video years ago and I have no idea what this guy was doing out there. But there was a poacher out in Africa that was trying to poach African elephants. What I can't figure out is what he was doing out there with a rabbit, as in a little 3-door hatchback. But whatever he was doing out there, he lost track of the African elephant. The African elephant turned his compact into a subcompact with him in it. Personally, I think that was fitting in for a poacher. But no, when you take a look at some of the babies, I'll tell you, I saw something, and if I could figure out what animal it was or how to even track it down again, I saw a video of something that I have never seen, and it was the weirdest thing I ever saw. Okay, it looked something along the line, it had to be some sort of a mole, but it looked like a roll of hamburger, okay, with little tiny legs and a great big squared off face. Huge front teeth. Okay, and I mean square teeth like a beaver would have. What I don't know is what the heck this thing was. Yeah, Frost Kitten saw another one of two dogs playing. One fell into a storm drain, and the other got in a guy's way walking past. Led him to find and save his friend. And this is what I mean by animals are awake. We are not the only people to think. We're not the only ones that care about our kids. Okay, we really aren't. Although I am a firm believer that many human parents could learn a lot from the animals as far as how to actually treat their kids. You know, I mean, to me, it's absolutely unfathomable. I met somebody today where their mother basically said, "Yeah, I know you're in a bad way, but no, you can't move home." I cannot for the life of me see my doing that. Yeah, no. Philip goes, "I thought you meant a rabbit." Picturing an Elmer Fudd like poacher who thought, no, vehicle. You know, the funny thing about it, and this is why I tell you guys, if we're going to turn the thinking of mankind around, we have a very important little factor here. For every negative article you read, every negative post you look at, post or repost or retweet two positive ones. Okay, if you're reading a negative, read two positive. This is why where it comes to the newsletter, I've decided on a number of factors, and the newsletter is evolving. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to deal with it to get it mailed out if it gets much bigger, because it's starting to run into limits, I'm sure of it. But where it comes to people that are getting the hard copy, that's going to be the easy part. I print it off away it goes. You know, that's just the way the whole thing works. You know, but no, this whole thing with the elephant was really neat. I don't know why the guy was out in the bush with the rabbit. I just don't. But he goes out there, and this African bull come up behind the thing, walked up beside the driver's seat, and sat on the driver's seat. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, a VW rabbit will not take the weight of an African bull elephant. Okay, just won't handle it very well. You know, and Frost Kitten, I do agree with you. You know, and Frost Kitten is just going, I have to start sharing my Twitter. You know, just made one, so I'm still figuring it out. I have no idea how to do that. I've still got to find a way to get around the glitch I've got. And I just haven't actually taken the time. I should probably do that tonight. But I have already started writing for September and moving forward with the Return to Paradise, the third installment of the Yldrbac Chronicles. Oh, speaking of which, got something to show you. Where's the other one? Told you I was getting a couple of posters done up, or more to the point, a couple of laminates done up to put on this back wall over here. Well, that doesn't work. Put on this back wall. And they're going to be across here. I'll have to move this a little. Okay. I just picked these up yesterday. Now, this is the back of book 10. Okay. I just had it blown up and turned into a laminate for me. Okay. But when you take a look at the back of book 10, and then we turn around and we put the back of book 11, you'll notice it comes together in a very solid pattern. Okay. These 12 books will eventually make a complete stained glass picture. Okay. But this is what I was referring to about getting the lamination done. Okay. You know, So they're going to end up going over here. Ouch. You know, if you look at it, they'll be sitting here. And of course, well, now that I see it, that'll only have to move over to the side. Right? But I'll have the 3 here, and then it'll go up. I've got 4 more rows, so it's probably going to come down to about there all in all. Okay, as I get them done. But I figure I've been in this apartment now for 10 years. I can't see it going away. You know, I can't see moving anytime soon. You know, this is just another one of those things that I'm looking at. Now, did I turn those into a poster for resale or anything? No. Okay, Cowie. The Yldrbacian Chronicles, now this first set, the latter years, the overall saga goes from the beginning of creation all the way through the evolution of the earth, okay, right to the fall and rise of man. Okay, but Birth of the Wolf Pack is the first book that takes place after the fall of mankind. So it is post-apocalyptic. Okay. It's post-apocalyptic about quite literally it's a ragtag group of misfits from after the fall of man that gets together to try and put the world back together. Oh. Yeah. So, I mean, in the books themselves, there are 4 sets of trilogies, all interlocked with flashbacks and foretellings interlocked throughout it. Okay. Do I try to do my best to push it through? The answer is yes. Now, that said, if you look at some of my previous videos, there are about 6 weeks where on the Sunday I actually read excerpts from it. Okay, the first few chapters. And when you look at the newsletter, I'm starting to put out excerpts out of the stories as well. But it boils down to where are we? That I'm aware of, Cowie? Where are we here? Just go through. Philip is going, there's an experiment talking mean to water and then talking nice. Apparently it has an effect on the water. I thought we're 70% water. I wonder how mean or nice content affects our health. I'll tell you, when people are being mean to each other, it will absolutely debilitate your thinking patterns. This is why people go into depression so fast. It's also why music will bring your mood up. You increase the energetic flow, you'll start feeling better. Surround yourself with people being nice, you'll feel better. Okay, surround yourself with people being real mean, you get depressed, you get suicidal, probably lethargic, somewhat isolationist. So yeah, it absolutely has a direct impact. Okay, now Cowie's going, yeah, and it absolutely would. They did the same thing with plants and found out talking nice to plants produced a higher yield. We covered this some time back, that talking nice to plants produces a higher yield and a healthier plant. Talking mean wipes out the productivity. Same thing happens to people, which is why I tell you, minimize the negative, maximize the positive. Now I'm just looking at this. Cowie goes, makes you wonder how many times man has risen and fallen. Well, let's see. The Tower of Babel took place way before the fall of the Egyptian Empire. Okay, the Roman Empire was another time when society collapsed completely. Okay, now of course, when the Lemurian Empire failed, it failed because of a mistake. I have no doubt about that, and Patty. Now I've got a son with mild CP. Okay, it's a lot of work. I'm glad his situation is only mild. I really don't know what my patience level would be like for the kind of energy that is required for some of these kids. And my hat definitely goes off, which reminds me, my hat definitely goes off to people working with special needs kids. Okay, and I'm referring to the ones that are encouraging. You know, I'm referring to the ones that are actually doing what they can to help the kid feel a little bit more empowered. And I've seen some, it's like, what are you doing this for? Like, why do you even have this job? Except to get paid. I met a physical trainer one day that was really pushing there was a gentleman, he was well over 500 pounds. And this young lass that frankly could have been a runway model was standing there with him in the way of helping him get his own physical life back in order. And the encouragement that she offered was just absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. Everything I'm picking up, Joe, says yes. Joe's just asking, will I ever see that big white floating apparition ghost again? In your mind's eye, okay, in your mind, just simply thank the individual for showing up and for showing themselves once again in a way that you can both accept and understand. Okay, does it feel like you'll get that kind of an interaction in pretty short order? The answer is yes. Don't bother setting up all sorts of recording items to pick it up, though. Just go with the idea of trusting your eyes. Does it feel like you'll get that interaction and that confirmation? The answer is yes, it does. From my standpoint, it's a pretty cut and dried issue. Okay, the nice part about it is when you look at it, Cowie, this is directly to you. I don't know. I wonder if I've actually got it. Let me take a peek here. Because I might be able to do one better for you directly. Cowie, JK. There we are. Okay. Here's a direct question for you, Cowie. If you would like, and all I need from you is a yes or no. If you would like, I've got your email address. I can send you a synopsis of the overview of what the Yldrbacian Chronicles actually covers. But that's up to you. Okay, because like I said, I do have your email address here, so that's easy enough. And I've already got it written out, so it's not like it's a big hassle. But the saga itself is, to say the least, a little on the extensive side. And Philip is going, today I learned that the age of Pisces started in the year 1 AD. I thought when the age of Pisces did, that wouldn't be a shock. I understood that we were heading into the age of Aquarius. So that would be about right. I'm still working out how they work all that out. I haven't bothered doing the calculations. Cowie, from that standpoint, I'll send you the synopsis after I get done shifted, after I get done the stream here. Okay. Because like I said, I do have it. That's the easy part. But, and like I said, Birth of the Wolf Pack takes place after the end of the synopsis. Okay, and that was just the way it kind of worked out. Yeah, the whole issue that we've got to look at here is we are now moving into a period, and it's pretty clear cut. People are starting to pay attention. Okay. People are starting to think, which is a great thing. Now we just got to teach them how to think, not what to think. Okay. The reality of it is, from the overall picture, you're looking at a society that really requires a reboot. And I don't mean wipe it out. I don't mean we need to overthrow a world. We really don't. Okay. Change takes place all over the world. It evolves very systematically. And this is proven time and time again when you look at the evolution of man. Okay, we're different parts of the world. The same evolutionary maneuver has taken place without them apparently having contact, which, by the way, is a little overstated. Okay, it's just a reality thing that we're dealing with. Okay, now, am I going to continue going forward with things and doing my part to encourage people to change the way they're thinking? Absolutely. Okay. The newsletter, when it started out, the first edition only had 6 pages. The last one I just put out today, yesterday, just sent it out yesterday, has 9. Okay. Now, I don't know how big it's going, like how fast it's going to grow. I do know it's going to continue to evolve. Okay. And I will continue pushing things and encouraging this world to stand up and realize that we've got to stop finding ways to isolate ourselves from each other. Okay. I'm no better than any of you. To be frank, financially speaking, yes. I've written a book called Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. Okay. I absolutely did. But understand, I went bankrupt twice before I pieced that together. Okay, this is why I say they're the tools that I personally use. Yeah, world. I got a buddy that's got the dice. I think he's almost got dice, like he's got dice, a die 69 and die 32. He found a place where he could get all of these different things. Okay. Clearly they existed, but this buddy of mine, this guy I game with, he's got a whole whack of these dice. What I should do is get him to bring them down and loan them to me for a bit, and I can show you what they look like. Okay. But yeah, I can even get the address that he got them from, I think. But that won't happen until Sunday anyway. Like, I'll talk to him before that. But if you'd like, I can get him to bring the information with him. I've got a die that originally was a die 20, but I took the die, and I kid you not, I rolled the die, and it was one of these things. It was just a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I'm sure of it. Okay. But it was right, continued to roll, and I didn't want it continuing to roll, so I took the lid of a tobacco container, put it over top. 5 minutes later, I lifted it up, and it was still rolling around in circles. Okay, and yes, I did have a witness that saw it. Well, I still have me, still alive. Okay, but yeah, one thing that I have done, I've figured out how to tie most of my ratings together. Okay, and will continue to do so. The nice part about it, especially, well, that was what I thought, world. Not tonight, but I'm going to make a note for myself, and I'll show you which die it was. Yeah, they were really confused that night because my buddy, he rolled a die, he got to the edge of the table, rolled down the edge of the table. Now, bear in mind, it's got an arborite top and arborite sides. This die, I watched him do this. He rolled it, and it rolled down the edge of the table, hit the 90-degree turn, went around the corner and carried on, and then popped back up on the table. It never fell on the floor, and I'm looking at it going like, what? I've even got a photograph of one my son did. He rolled a die 6, and without it leaning on anything, on a flat arborite top, okay, he rolled a die 6, a metal die 6, and it stopped on an edge. And yes, I took photographs of it because I'm sitting there going, you don't see this. This is not something that's normal. But in my house, things are a little weird a lot of the time. That's just the way it goes. Now, with that in mind, guys, like I said there, Cowie. Yeah, pretty much. Just kind of looked at it and went, what do I do with that? Absolutely, Cowie. I will send that thing and that to you. One thing about it that I don't actually say in the synopsis is I ended up putting an actual group of gamers in the storyline. Okay, they're trying to play a version of Dungeons and Dragons while the world's going to heck in a handbasket. Okay, and it's like, okay, yeah, we got gunfire and we got explosions going on. Grab your dice, guys. Let's move to a place that's safe. I decided it just seemed to work out well. But we are hitting the 2-hour mark here, guys. So I want to thank you again for sharing your time with me. I really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, what is tomorrow? I believe if we go with Macbeth, it becomes tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. But that was a little twisted. Anyway, tomorrow, we are going to be looking at redesigning your life regardless of your past. Okay, we're going to get started. Hopefully, we can get you guys mobilized on that. Okay. We will get you guys picking a direction, hopefully. I'll give you the tools, but you guys are going to have to do something with it. Okay, that's just the reality behind it. That said, I'm going to bring this to a close. And thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing your time with me. I will be back again tomorrow, assuming I don't die before then. Okay, but until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.